Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is Digital Marketing Podcast with Bill Hartzer for May 12th, 2022. Lots of things to talk about this week, so let's get started. And so digital marketing news. So Google I/O was this past week, and specifically, frankly, there are so many different new announcements, excuse me, that I'd like to point you to Search Engine Roundtable. They have a very good overview, and I'm going to be going through that myself, and I'm getting updated on that. I do think there's a lot of things that are going on, especially a lot of Google announcements. So Google Search Console. So Google Search Console actually may stop collecting data for your website in particular. So even if you have verified your website through Google Search Console, and you never go back to look in the reports, and you have not gone back in a while, they may actually stop collecting data about that website. So I think they're looking for excuses now or they have been to not have to collect data for a site, because frankly, when they collect data, it takes up resources. And so there's certain reasons why they probably are going to stop collecting data for your site. So for example, if the site is no longer verified in Search Console by anybody, and you remove the verification, they're probably going to stop collecting data. And so that's why, keep in mind though, when you do verify your site in Google Search Console, that once you put that code in there in particular to verify, that at some point they will actually take a day or two to actually start collecting the data and before it's available. They kind of have to, take some time to start collecting data because, and then before they actually have any data to show you. That said, basically, there's a way that forensically have been kind of being able to figure out every site owner or a site owner in particular for websites. So keep in mind though, when you do a search at Google, you're only searching content essentially. So you're not actually Google or some of the search engines like Bing. They don't actually allow you, in particular, they don't actually allow you to search the code. There are actually code search engines out there for that. So for example, let's say you have a website, you really want to find out who the site owner is of that particular site. And they're doing their best. They're hiding behind, they don't have her contact information on the site. They may actually have, let's say they may not even have information like, they may be hiding behind Cloudflare. The domain who is information may be private as well. There still may be a way to actually find out the real site owner. You can, and I've done this frequently, and I do it frequently in my own business, is where you can actually go in particularly and look for things like unique codes. For example, the Google Search Console verification code, that actually is unique for that particular Google account. So let's say I have 10 websites and I want to verify those in Google Search Console. Google's going to give me the same code, the same ID for all those 10 websites to verify that I'm the site owner. If I take that code and then I put that code and I verify it through the meta tag that I put on the site, okay, then me specifically, I can go in, I could view the source code of your site, and I can actually put that code in the code search, that meta verification tag. I can put that in a code search engine and find every single website that you own that you are verified in Google Search Console with. Same thing with Google Analytics or anything that's unique. There's other things like, let's say, other services, if you will, like maybe it's a chat service, or maybe it's a usability ADA service. okay, or some other part of the template or a plugin or something that's you're going to be have a unique ID, I can actually take that unique ID and put it in the code search engine and find every single website that you own. In a lot of cases, you know, that's that site owner is trying to hide because they're doing something illegal or they're doing something defamatory or something that they shouldn't be doing. And in fact, you know, they're trying to hide themselves by, you know, hiding domain ownership, putting it behind Cloudflare, not putting contact information on the site, etc. But they don't realize that they may, you know, they may be using Google Analytics, they may be using Google Search Console and so forth, that they're revealing themselves that way. And so many times where I found, oh, gee, all the 21 websites that you own, and on some of those websites, you put your real contact information on them because maybe it's your real business. And then you have 20 other sites that, you know, you're hiding, you know, you're trying to hide. That's basically you're just, you know, it's, you know, if you're doing something criminal and, you know, and that's a way we can figure that out. So it's kind of related to Google Search Console, you know, and so forth. If you're really going to try to hide yourself, you know, there are ways to do things for, you know, that where somebody cannot find who you are. And there's also, you know, things like looking at web server and looking at your DNS history of, you know, where you've hosted the website and what other websites are on that same server. So that's kind of forensically getting into a little bit more details like that. So Google actually released, on another note, moving on. So Google actually released an SEO certification course. And in that course, they were talking about things like keyword density and other SEO things that have not been related to SEO in like 15 years. And that are not good recommendations, mainly keyword density. And so Google actually, someone pointed that out to Google, and they you know, basically had all this egg on their face and they looked bad. And so they went in and removed things like keyword density and mentions and so forth. So anyway, so there is a new site that people have been talking about on Facebook and sharing it around and so forth called New Profile Pick. Newprofilepic.com, and it's an app where basically it'll take your profile photo and it will change it for you into, you know, a different looking photo. People have looked into this, and apparently the website is actually owned by a company in Russia, in Moscow, Russia, and supposedly they are collecting data from you. So basically, if you use the app, then what will happen is allegedly they will be collecting all the data that they can, like all your contacts and all your information and so forth, and anything on your phone. That's through the app. And then the website, you know, they may try and download things from your computer or get information that, so it's kind of, you know, I'm not sure if that has actually been proven that they've taken data or they're taking data, because I haven't personally looked into it forensically. However, it's just probably something you want to stay away from as well. So moving on. So I had a tweet yesterday, or actually 2 days ago, that was very interesting because of the fact that it was a website that had been shared with me, and I'm not sure, you know, I'll mention the website once, as serp.co, serp.co. And this is very interesting because of the fact that they bought 525, it appears that they bought 525 expired domain names, and they redirected those domain names, and all, obviously when you redirect, you take all the links that those domain names have, and they point them over to your to your website. So what's interesting is that they bought those domains, or started repointing them or redirecting them around December 2021. And before that, they were ranking for about 2,000 keywords. in the top 100, which is basic. It's not great at all, but it's okay. Within 1 month, they were ranking for 1.6 million keywords and exploding their traffic basically by millions of visits and so forth, and having really good rankings. And so make me kind of want to look into this and analyzing it. I did find the over 500 domains that have been redirected. And I also found the fact that how they did it. So what they did is basically, this is actually a marketing website, okay? This is the basic, an SEO firm or a marketing website. What they did is they created a page, let's say, for example, for cool golf bags, okay, and around golf bags, and obviously golf. Well, what they did is they found an expired domain that was about golf and that had a lot of golf related links going to that domain. Then they basically redirected that domain name specifically to their golf page, cool golf bags. Well, that's interesting because of the fact that they did that, and it's on topic. Those links to those links to the domain, the golf domain, and the links get passed on through the 301 redirect to that golf page. Even though the website is about marketing, okay, we now know that basically because Google is ranking that website page about golf bags very well in the results, that Google actually is looking at relevancy between the links, and not just the fact that it's a powerful website that has a bunch of links. They're looking at the relevancy, because if they didn't look at the relevancy, then basically they probably wouldn't be ranking that particular page anymore. And the fact that it is pointing to an internal page and not to the home page. Also, we can see that that links that are domains that are redirected to your internal page, not to the home page, count more than, and basically if they were to redirect to the home page, they would not be, those links wouldn't really be counted that much. So that's one area. So if you really want to look into that, you may want to look at that particular site. I'm not going to mention it anymore, but if you happen to catch it earlier, then that's great. So that particular tweet, I did not talk specifically about that particular site. I showed a screen capture of how in a month that they bumped up because they redirected 525 domains. What's interesting though is that is because of the fact of the relevancy. And previously, Google had a problem if you redirected over 100 domains to your website. But now we're seeing something different. Now we're seeing, here's a site that's redirecting over 500 domains, which is quite a lot more than simply 100. And not only that, is that has not been any penalty. There has been no, Google's rewarding that behavior of redirecting all those domains. And the way they're getting away with it, I believe, is that because Google is looking at the relevancy and they don't really care specifically about, that if it was off topic, the link wouldn't count. We also know specifically that it's pointing to a page, and a relevancy is based on the pages that it's pointing to, not necessarily the site that it's pointing to. Because again, we have a marketing site that has a golf page on that particular site. Now, here's another example of the fact that the domain has to be redirected to an internal page on the site and not to the home page. So I have a very real world example, and I'm not going to get into the particular site, but I'll use some keywords as an example. So let's say this company has been around for, 40, 50 years, well before the internet. Mid 90s, they started a website and so forth. Now, early 2000s, mid 2000s, they had their main corporate site. But then actually what they did was they opened and created several microsites or several sub-sites, okay? So let's say you have your main corporate site, companyname.com, and you have medical supplies, and you have office supplies and so forth, and educational supplies. Well, what they did is they had companyname.com, but they opened up companynamemedical.com, companyname educationsupplies.com, and so forth. Then at some point, those were real legitimate websites. They got links from other websites. They did press releases. They did, normal things that they would do with a regular site. What they decided to do at some point, though, before I got involved, is they, for whatever reason, they said, okay, we've got 12 different websites. Let's just make everything into one website. So what they did is they took company name medical, for the medical supplies, and they took that site down. They moved some of the content over to their companyname.com/medical. And what they did is they redirected the domain name companynamemedical.com to the homepage of companyname.com. That was actually a mistake because of the fact, and they had that for a while and so forth. Well, I came in and said, you know what? I'm trying to get, that medical supplies page to rank really well. I can't get it, after a few months. I was like, well, I can't get it to rank, higher than on a third page of Google. Well, it turns out that I said, let's just change the redirect. So they had companymedical.com and it's going from the homepage. Let's redirect it over to companyname.com/medical, your actual on-topic page. So here we had a domain that all these links that are the company name medical, the medical related links, and they were pointing out to the homepage. What we did is we pointed it to the internal page that's about medical, okay, and medical supplies, which it should have been in the time within. It should have been done in the first place, but they redirected to the homepage. Well, 2 weeks later, nothing else was done. But 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, whammo, the rankings kicked in, and we actually now are on the first page for their medical supplies keyword because of the fact that they redirected the domain to an internal page versus the homepage. Okay, so we go back to the fact that here's the 525 names, et cetera, et cetera. We were redirecting, they're redirecting this on topic to a page that's on topic. And that is the key here. Okay, so that is the key to, unlocking rankings and getting links that are on topic to internal pages on your site, especially if you're going to deal with any expired domain names, etc. So finally, kind of wrap up a little bit today with some more info about archive.org. So I have a question. So my question is, there have been people who are concerned that Google is actually taking content from their website and, let's say, in a featured snippet, and they're taking, the answer to a question, taking content from your site and putting that in the search results and essentially copying your content and using it, in Google. What's the difference between that and, in fact, allowing archive.org to completely make a copy of your entire website and use that on their site and just use your content? I mean, that's part of their business model, is to archive and steal your content. people have all, these issues with Google keeping content. Well, we have a bigger issue of archive.org stealing your content and putting it on your site. So why are we allowing archive.org to go through and index our entire website? There's actually been some legal cases that have come up that I'm involved with that are related to copies of archive.org content that have been put on other domain names. So let's say a company has, a domain name and they're a big business, and they, for whatever reason, they don't think they need a website anymore. That the website went down. They didn't, maintain it anymore, because that's not really where they get, they get their business elsewhere. They don't, because of their location, and they're not really concerned about that. So somebody comes along and they buy their domain name, and they go to archive.org, they steal the old content. They're stealing content. They're taking content and they're putting it on the old website and faking putting up the website back and actually impersonating the business. Okay. And if you are a business and somebody's taking your old content and putting it up on the web, and they've stolen it from archive.org, you're allowing a copy of your content or your website content to be up there. Someone's taking it, and you're enabled by allowing archive.org to have a copy of your site out there is just a liability. There's not really any huge benefit I see from allowing archive.org to crawl and index your entire website and multiple copies of it over and over again. So, in some cases, sure, it could be helpful. In other cases, for you as a business, you should have copies and backups of your own site. You should not have to rely on archive.org or some kind of service like that, to archive and copy your website. Now, another issue has been coming up where the fact that in certain UDRPs, which are the official domain disputes, certain UDRP decisions have been made by panelists that have literally stated that removing and blocking archive.org from indexing and crawling your website and making copies of your website was an indication of bad faith. And by removing and blocking archive.org from crawling your website in the robust text file is an indication that you registered a domain name in bad faith. And that's I could go on and on about that. That has been brought up. So I don't think that's the case. I don't think that there's, for privacy issues, for general copyright issues, we shouldn't be relying on archive. We shouldn't have to rely on archive.org as just being one source that shows that there was prior use of the domain or a website or whatever in the past. That's something that is, something I won't get into right now, but I don't think there's any real good reason right now or legitimate reason to continue to allow archive.org to copy and archive a website. If there are some reasons, let me know. I'd like to know what those reasons are. I don't think that it is an indication that blocking is an indication that you register a domain name in bad faith. That's just not correct, in my opinion. So that said, there are specific steps if you wish to go through. You cannot block them by or remove content or block them in the future from crawling by using robust.txt file. That's not the way you do it. You actually have to go through a process. And I outlined that process before, but like I said, you have to go through a process with archive.org specifically. You have to get in touch with them and tell them you want to remove all the content and you want them to stop crawling in the future. That said, we're just about out of time. If you do have any questions, feel free to get in touch. You can get in touch with me on any of the social media. We are, as I said, Facebook Live. I am on Facebook Live every Thursday afternoon at this time, which is 1:30 Mountain Time. That may change in the future, but right now that's the schedule, every Thursday at 1:30 Mountain Time. Feel free to jump on. And these are recorded. It's recorded on Facebook Live. Those recordings are available. And as well as if you go to your YouTube channel, Hartzer Consulting YouTube channel, the video is archived there, as well as the audio is available on any podcast. So for example, if you were able to find the podcast on Amazon Music, Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and a lot of other podcasts that are available. This has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast from Thursday, May 12th, 2022, and we'll see you online. Thanks for joining me today.